Do you hate the thought of working past 55 or 60? Do you hate not being able to live the life you deserve today? Do you hate not knowing what your financial future looks like? It's time to stop doing what you hate. Here's your host, Mr. Harold Green.
Aloha, everybody. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. This is Harold Green of Breaktree Financial, and it is time to stop doing what you hate. How is everybody doing? I am doing fine. I'm doing much better. I think I was sharing with you guys a little while ago that I was sick for a little bit. Normally, I don't tell people things of that nature, but in the age of being transparent, I don't want to be too transparent, but some things you got to keep to yourself. But I was just kind of sharing with you guys that this has been a very difficult year, and pushing and giving it everything I got and going 100, I just kind of ran myself down. And basically here in Hawaii, I think a lot of you guys know that by now, here in Hawaii, there's not a lot of places you can go. I mean, we're on an island, and you can go to the mall, you can go out to eat at some restaurants here and there, but there's just not a lot of new things to do. We can't just hop in our car and drive 300-400 miles to the next state over. We can fly out, but to get back, you need to take a test, and it's hard to find a test and things like that. So, a lot of us here are doing everything we can just to make sure we stay, mentally sane and just trying to keep everything going. And, it can be quite repetitive. So I was just grinding and pushing and trying to keep my mind off certain things. And, and it did have an impact on me. So I had to kind of slow things down, like I said, and take things, day by day, step by step, and just kind of look at things a little bit differently. But today's show is the 3 pillars of a successful retirement plan. And it's going to be a little bit of a recap and an overview on some of the things I've talked about before. But I think repetition is key. When I was in high school, I took Spanish, and there was a phrase called listen and repeat. So it was one of our Spanish instructors' favorite phrases, listen and repeat. And that's how, I learned some Spanish. Unfortunately, I probably know more Japanese than Spanish, and I kind of suck at both. But that's one of the things I want to look at doing better in 2021 is basically brushing up on my Spanish and maybe some other languages in Japanese, and just looking at doing something a little bit differently. But today I want to get into the 3 pillars of a successful retirement, or 3 pillars of a successful retirement plan. The first pillar that I'm going to get into, and it's kind of common sense, is cash flow management. And, my mom used to say common sense isn't really all that common. And growing up, I would hear that. But as I became older, that's surprise. It's surprising. And cash flow management is something that's not taught in our schools. It's not taught in colleges and universities. You may learn a little bit about it in business if you're, a business major. And I don't even really think they learn that much about cash flow management and economics, but it is a very big thing. And the inability to track finances in my 20 plus years of experience is a major reason why many people start financial plans, but they can't stick with them. And again, this is due to a lack of education. So, cash flow management starts with looking at a checkbook and managing that, looking at your credit card statements and managing those. But you're going to need to make sure you have a very solid system of tracking your inflows and your outflows down to the nearest penny. And one of the reasons why couples don't really have a good cash flow management system is because there's not a lot of transparency. And it's kind of like government spending or any kind of spending in big, huge organizations and institutions where, there's a lot of murkiness for a reason. And one of the first ways, the beginning of becoming successful financially, is understanding and being transparent about the money that comes in and the money that goes out. So one of my first pieces of advice to couples is make sure that you're being fully transparent with your finances and to give each other allowances. I know that sounds a little bit immature and childish, but you're going to have to put a limit on what you spend if you want to get to the next level. unless you're making so much money already. But this show is not for people that are gazillionaires already and they don't need to track their numbers. But of course, gazillionaires do track their numbers. That's why they are gazillionaires, right? But you're going to have to put limits on your your spending. Give yourself an allowance, and if you're good at not spending all of it, that's great. But that way, you don't have to hide things from each other. And I think when you start to hide things from each other, it leads to breakdown in trust, and it just leads to not only in the financial arena. I mean, it leads to breakdowns in a lot of other areas. And so eventually I'm going to get up enough nerve to do a show called Divorce and Money, and it's something I've been thinking about for a long time. I've had clients get divorced, and it's not a pretty thing. Some of them come out of it okay, and others are still dealing with the side effects of that relationship, and it's hard for them to recover because it's such a painful thing. But that's the first thing is where it starts is not being honest about the money, not being honest about spending behind your spouse's back or giving money to family members behind your spouse's back. I've seen things like that before where one spouse made more money than the other. Because she made more money than her spouse, she felt that it was her right to do whatever with her funds that she wanted. And that just kind of led to a lot of different things. And I've seen that really destroy families. And so being upfront about what you want to do with your money, being on the same page about your finances and your cash flow is a very important thing. So whether you use a software system to track your inflows and your outflows, or you sit down and use a spreadsheet to track your inflows and your outflows, you're going to have something, and being transparent about the money is steak sauce A1. I mean, from A1, from day one, that's what you have to do. Okay. So that's pillar number one, is having a great cash flow management system. Pillar number two is having a great cash reserve system. And my cash flow reserve system, I call it the 4A system. It must be, number one, adequate. It must be accessible. It must be after tax, and it must always be there. Now, there are some variants of this that I've created, and there are some wrinkles that I've added into my cash flow system for the sophisticated investor and the high net worth individual. So there's some things that we can do a little differently than I do for people that's starting off. So there's a number of different things you can use for your cash flow system. You can use a regular bank account, which basically you can save and add to that. And, for some clients, they can use different types of leverage systems for cash reserves because they have a good stable income system and a good cash flow management system, which allows us to take advantage of some leveraging opportunities. And so in order to be really successful, you're going to have to master these three things: the cash flow management, the cash reserve system, and then the final one is going to be the income generation system. But going back to the cash reserve system, being adequate. What is adequate? 6 to 7 months of income, a year's worth of income, 10 years worth of income in your cash reserve system. And normally we start off with about 6 or 7 months of cash reserves in a place where, if you lose your job, you can go in there and have access to it anytime you want. But what I've done is, once we build up 6 or 7 months of cash reserves, we can then make those cash reserves begin to create income, even if it's a nominal amount. And so it becomes a vicious success loop in your finances of, building cash reserves, making those cash reserves generate income. And so they must be adequate, accessible, after tax, and always there. You must always have access to your cash reserves without anyone telling you you can't get the money or there's a penalty for taking the money. And so you definitely want to make sure you have 6 to 7 months of cash reserves in a place that you can get to it right away. And a lot of times this can be opportunity money, right? You don't necessarily have to look at it as just, say, emergency money. Sometimes it can be for opportunity. And that's a very important thing as well. And so going over into the last one is the income generation system, making sure you always have a way to generate income. You always have monies coming in all the time. And there's a couple of different things I look at when we start getting into income generation and creating a system that constantly producing and constantly working. And so in the Rapid Retire program and in the income generation model, I talk about 4 basic questions in regards to your money. Number 1, where is it? Okay. Number 2, what is it doing? Number 3, how long is it supposed to be there? And then number 4, is it safe? And when we start talking about, is your money safe? we get into things like, oh, my friend gave me a recommendation for this, and they've been doing it for a while, and I think it's something that I want to get into. And a lot of times you have to look at it, is it safe, and can you get your money back when you want? So I don't know if I shared with you guys this, but I had someone send me an email. My friend said, hey, this is something they want to get into, and we're all kind of the same age, and we're all friends or whatnot, and we've all kind of talked about it, and blah blah blah. And when I hear that, it just kind of makes my skin crawl, because I've seen so many people taken advantage of, because they go into something together with friends, and it's not peer pressure, but it's peer optimism. I'm gonna just put that word out there to you guys. I call it peer optimism. Everybody gets all hyped up about something, and the potential to make money is there with them not having to do anything for it. And so that's my biggest concern. Anytime somebody gives you an opportunity that looks super good and you don't have to really do anything for it, and it just makes you money hand over fist, that's sometimes things that sound too good to be true are actually too good to be true. And you're going to have to do your research and understand like what you are getting yourself into. And so it's very important to keep in mind that prior to investing or putting money in any place, you must have very specific goals and objectives. And quite frankly, many people do not. And that's why they get in trouble. So you're going to have to set goals for your money, just like you set goals for yourself. And so without them, you're really not going to understand if you're making progress or you're meeting your metrics or your benchmarks and things like that. I use Planner by Grant Cardone. It's the 10X Planner. And basically in the 10X Planner, you sit down and you map out your day, and then you go into your goals or whatnot. And so I love my 10X Planner because it really helps me focus at the very start of my day. I write down what I'm going to do. My day starts at 4:30 for the most part. And but Grant's, his planner starts at 6 a.m. I'm like, bro, like I'm up like an hour and a half before that, and I'm already cracking at it. So, but I write out what I'm going to do, and then I write out, when I'm going to leave the office, and, what time I'm going to get rest or what time I'm going to work out. I kind of put that in the day. And at the second page of it talks about your goals. It starts with your goals, and then it talks about your motto, like what's your motto or your quote for the day. And mine is basically, don't give in, be all in, finish strong. And I write that in my 10X Planner every single day. And then I go into my targets or whatnot. And then at the end of the day, it says, okay, so success stories of the day or whatever he calls it. And then you write your goals again. So I do my best to keep on track with my goal planner every day. And the sad part about it can be a little overwhelming, because once you hit one goal, you have to immediately like put the next step to that goal. So I have my goals kind of like in steps. And so I have goals for my firm and goals for my personal life. And so they go in steps. And so each step is a goal to the ultimate goal. And you just kind of break it down in chunks. And so eventually someday you'll get there. And then you also have to like put a time frame on it. And I feel you should do the same thing with money, and I've done that from a early age, by the time I was 30, where I said, okay, I want to make this much income by this age. And then I began to map that out. And then I want to make this much income by this age. And then I began to map that out. And then I'm 47 going on 48. And so I also have a goal for by the time I hit age 50. And so by the time I hit 50, I want to be at a specific place in my life. And so I've started at 30, and I've just been working my way up for the last 17 years to hit these income and revenue goals. And so when it comes to money, you definitely want to start making sure that you're setting goals, whether you're self-employed, you have your own business, whatever it might be, you want to set these goals. And so what I found is when you set goals and you work hard, basically opportunities they kind of find you. And Proverbs talks about, a person with great skill will stand before kings, or something of that effect. And so when you're diligent, you're honing your skill, you're working hard, you're setting your goals, opportunity loves those kind of people or those types of people, and it will find you. But, definitely having a great income generation model set up, but it does start with goal setting. So you can kind of build some of that in, and then that's the way you're going to be able to tell if you're on the right track. So all of these things are going to have to be set up well before you retire. And so I find that some people come in and meet me in their 50s and they don't have a great cash flow management system set up, and that makes it tough. They've just kind of been, they make good money, they've been working hard, but they just haven't really, perfected the system. Maybe because the advisors they work with just simply focus on growing the wealth and nothing else. But here in my plan, in the Rapid Retire plan, I believe that we're very holistic in regards to how we look at the three pillars of a successful retirement plan. But thanks for listening in to me today. If you guys want to know more about the program, go to my website, retirenow.retirewild.com, or just give me a call, 521-4401, and we'll be able to get you on the schedule and then sit down and create a plan to take you from where you are today to where you want to be. Again, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays to you folks, and until next time, 1, 2, 3, let's get it.
This is thepodcastfactory.com.